Hi, and welcome to the Health Begins with Mom show. I am Dorit Palvanov, your host. On this podcast, I will share insights and interviews on health, parenting, and explore the question of what does it take to thrive as women, wives, and mothers. Now, let's get going with today's episode. Hey everybody, welcome to another episode of the Health Begins with Mom podcast. This is Dorit Palvanov, your host. Today on the show, I am so excited to talk about how to feel amazing naked. Isn't this what we all want? We just want to take off our clothes, look in the mirror, and just adore what we see. And today on the show, I am chatting with Amanda Walker, who is a health lifestyle coach, and she empowers women to feel amazing naked. That's what she does. She is the creator of the Feel Amazing Naked program and the Feel Amazing Naked podcast, and the blogger and mastermind behind walkmyway.com. Amanda's mission is to help women create the lifestyle they want to live in body, mind, and soul. I love the fact that you are using this holistic approach, and like in your bio, it also says that you're using a holistic approach to coaching, and that you're blending strategy, skill, and mindset to help clients unearth the root causes of their struggles with food, body, and mind to help them lead their best life possible. Amanda is also passionate about pushing clients to create more time in their life for healthy living and giving them tools to get out of their own way to overcome their limiting beliefs. So with that said, Amanda, welcome.
Thank you. I'm so excited to be here and talk about our passions because we share that in common.
Yeah, I love that. And I was interviewed on your show as well, and we talked about something similar. So why don't we kick it off with, I'm going to ask you, I know that you're a mom, you have a boy and a girl, right?
Yep.
So I'm going to start with, what are you loving about being a mother right now?
Yeah, right now, I'm loving that I feel like I have a friendship with my children. You know, there's times in our lives where it feels like so much work that I'm starting to see some of the energy that I put in as they were toddlers start to really pay back as their little personalities evolve. And I'm seeing, this different level of connection that I haven't necessarily experienced as they've aged. And so like their little personalities are coming up and their own passions are starting to appear. And that's super exciting.
How old are your kids?
My daughter's 9 and my son is 7.
Oh, yeah. Oh my gosh, we have the same ages.
Yeah. I remember saying that before. It's a really fun experience.
It is definitely. So let's start with your story. I've listened to a few of your your podcast episodes. I know you just launched it. And I loved how you've overcome your painful relationship with food and body image. So can we start with that? Can you share more of that story?
Yeah. So I think that like many of us, mothers and women, we have experiences that have shaped our attraction and our relationship to food, as in adolescence. And you and I have talked a lot about that. I know that's work that you're deeply, passionate about too. And so I don't think though that I realized how much those experiences in my childhood and teenage years really impacted me until adulthood. And so I was always athletic my whole life. I was a competitive dancer till about my teenage years. And then I began playing, team sports, specifically basketball. And one of the most, I think, the biggest places in my life where I began to just be aware that like there were differences in our bodies and that there might be a good and a bad was when I was a dancer. And because I was tall, I was kind of pushed into this older, more competitive group of dancers. And I was like 9 and 10, but they were like 14. And so, they had boobs and their bodies were starting to take on this womanly figure. And I was still like this very youthful kind of, chunky kid. And before every competition, in their eyes, I think it was out of a loving like addition to the group, but they used to come up to me and like the old Pillsbury Doughboy commercial, they used to put their like index finger into my belly and make the little noise of the Pillsbury Doughboy. And I kind of took it like a champ because I loved being around them. But I realized now that's where I started to cover myself, start to wear baggier clothes, start to be more aware of our differences. I started to want boobs. I started to want all these things that I didn't have. And so I think that was really the springboard into my awareness of body image, a little bit of shame that led into the teenage years.
Oh my gosh. As you were sharing that, my heart was just cracking and I just felt the pain. How painful this must have been to just experience that. Oh my gosh, it's terrible. But, out of this struggle came the beautiful work that you're doing now.
Yeah. And I think that I had to go back and go back to these memories a little bit as my work evolved because I was seeing it in my own clients. Like the relationship and the experiences they had were coming up in our discussions. And that's when I realized there is no coincidence, right? That paved the way to where they were now. And unless we go back and kind of really start to identify like what were those experiences and how can we bridge the gap of from then to now, I don't really think you can have true healing in your relationship with food until you acknowledge those things.
Yeah, absolutely. And I love that you said that one of the things that were the most kind of highlighted in your life is that you were athletic. And I wanted to ask you, because it's something that I see a lot in my practice, is this tendency of women to exercise it out. I say exercise it out, and I have air quotes and attached to that, and they do that as a way to cope or deal with difficult emotions or triggers through exercise. Now, here's where this gets tricky. In our culture, exercise is considered healthy, right, and good for you. But what I want to know is the difference between exercising for health and really to feel good and doing this for the sake of sweating it out, so to speak, which is just, in my opinion, just another form of numbing or being disembodied. Mm-hmm. So I wanted to ask you, why do you think this is not a sustainable way for women to live, and what can we do instead?
Yeah, I love that you just asked this question because I experienced I call it cardio-orexia because I really believe it's an addictive behavior, as you said, to not deal with emotions. And for me, I went through that really hard, really until probably, 5 years ago was the time where I was finally able to disconnect from that and get more in tune with my body. But especially through college, I was spending a great deal of time exercising because I was stressed and I was homesick. And so that became my mechanism along with food to deal with those emotions. Because at the time I didn't know that I was avoiding actually dealing with those emotions. Now as an adult, from an outsider looking in and working with clients, like I'm sure you do, you can see that when people are using food or exercise or a bottle of wine or whatever the case is, that's really a way to disconnect from those emotions. And so I think that the fine line is drawn when exercise becomes a burden. And so when you feel that you have to, then what happens is it's not a sustainable approach. Or when you feel like you're constantly having to undo poor food choices, then it's really not the exercise. It's really more of a focal point on the food and why you're making the food choices you are, or why you're unable to make the food choices that you would like to make. And so I am a big fan of doing what you love because I believe that's sustainable. Yeah. And not CrossFitting because your friend down the way got great results CrossFitting, or not doing Zumba because, Sally over here got great results doing Zumba. But like, what is it that you want that feels good, that is sustainable, and is that fine line of going out and moving your body to reap the benefits of exercise, but not feeling like you have to.
Right. Right. I love that. Thank you. I'm just kind of like thinking about my own behavior, and I did not grow up athletic. It was just not, I didn't see my mom doing it. My mom still doesn't exercise. So movement wasn't even something that I knew that I crave until very recently in my life. Now, my husband, he's very athletic, and I was in this kind of place of him pushing me to exercise. And that to me felt like, well, why do I feel like I have to? It's like you said, when I feel like I have to, that is when there is like a fine line, because then it becomes it's like an external way to cope with this discomfort. So to me, when exercise became sustainable and actually something I crave to do, is when it came from my own decision of, no, this actually makes me feel really good. And that is why I go there. That is why I have memberships at 2 places. That's why I have a membership at a boot camp place and a membership for a yoga studio. For some people that would be like, oh my gosh, that's insane. That's $200 a month just for exercise. But to me, this is not even a question. Yes. But it used to be. So thank you for that. I haven't even thought of that. Amazing.
And you're a prime example of finding something that, feels good in your body and in your mind and in your soul. And then, I always say, like, things that are a priority to you, you find the time and you make the time and you find the money for. And so I would argue that those are likely the best $200 you're spending in a month, because it makes you a better mother, a wife altogether.
Absolutely. 100%. Amazing. Okay. So Amanda, you and I have had these conversations many times. We talked about on your podcast, this whole concept of embodiment, right? And embodiment is the work that I'm very deeply connected to and passionate about. And like, if I have to boil it down to like a sentence, that would be helping women, helping mothers get out of their head and get more into their body. So the question I want to ask you, as somebody who is, working with women and yourself as a woman too, why do you think that as women, why do you think we disembody? Why do you think that there are so many women who don't feel confident and joyful, just in their life in general? What do you think the source of this curse?
Yeah, sure. I agree with you. And I think 2 things come to mind for me. One is that we are just constantly nurturing everyone else. And because we're worried about serving, our children, our spouse, our boss, our colleagues, the more we serve others, the less we connect with what we want. And it's almost, there is this stigma out there that to serve ourselves is still a very selfish act. And we have a lot of, parent shaming still going on, because, I think of the times where, like, I took my children to the gym and I've received comments like, oh, you drop your kid off at the gym, at the daycare, at the gym where, you're working out. And I'm like, 100% yes, I did, because I am a better mother, because for 45 minutes, the kids were 20 feet away from me in childcare where they could see me, and I got to move my body and create all these important hormones that are necessary for me to feel happy. So I think one is like overcoming the, creating the space enough. I mean, this could be like a whole 4-hour discussion in itself. Obviously I'm getting really excited talking about this. But I think another issue, as far as I look at food and just body image overall, is the more we diet, the more disconnected from our body we become. So again, the more we diet, so the more we reach for quick fixes and we look for kind of quantitative data and quantitative resources to help change our physical appearance, the more disconnected we become with how we actually feel. And so one of my goals as a coach is to kind of push the girls that I work with and challenge them to actually kind of push away quantitative data and start really evaluating qualitative data. Like, how do you feel when you put on your clothes? How do you feel when you look in the mirror? How do you feel when you go to the gym? Or how do you feel when you eat, a Reese's peanut butter 6-pack of, candy versus sweet potatoes and chicken breasts and arugula? So I think that it's just taking the time to create the space for both of these things and slow down a little bit.
Yeah. I love that so much. It's almost like underneath all of this is really the ability of us women to be able to cultivate this sense of confidence, because being able to say, I feel really good when I eat arugula and broccoli and all that, it requires, it's almost like it requires courage and guts. It requires you to be really honest with yourself, right? As opposed to living in this kind of like reactive, like rat race, of like constantly, produce, do, give,
Yeah.
which makes you kind of like disassociate from your essence of like, what is it that I want? What is it that I need? What am I all about? Right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I love that so much. So let's talk about confidence. Why do you think that, why do you believe that confidence is so important? Especially, I want you to kind of bring it back into our world, into my world, really. Why is it so important for women who are raising the next generation of women? Why does it matter?
Yeah, because I believe that your ability to be strong in who you are just bleeds out into all the other connections you have in life. So I think that being a confident woman spills over into being a confident mother and making more powerful decisions in parenting. I think that being a confident woman, a wife, spills into how you interact with your husband, but I also think it drastically improves your sex life. When you can show up for your husband and be be extremely confident. And I don't want to confuse confidence with size, because they are two totally different things. Because in my own experience, I got to this place on the scale where I was the lowest weight I'd ever been. And I did have like this ripping six-pack, right? And it was kind of this place that I had always dreamed of going. And I have to tell you, it was not the most confident or happy I was ever. There wasn't balance. I was too overcome by a strict dieting mindset. And so I think confidence is just truly the ability to work on showing up as who you're meant to be, getting rid of the noise and the criticism from exterior influences, and just allowing who you are inside to really spill out into every connection you have in life.
Oh, I love that. That's so true. It's 100% true. It's so true. Confidence is sexy, but again,
Yes.
when it comes from like your kind of like, I don't know, for me, I feel like it's in my core. It's in my core. Like I feel it. It's inside of like my female organs, maybe. Female organs. It's like I feel so connected to myself, hence I am smiling in a certain way, I'm flirting in a certain way, I have this kind of outlook that it's gonna be okay, and just like this joy that is being projected then into the world. Like you said, it bleeds out everywhere. That is that confidence, right?
Yes. And
Yeah.
I think that, the interesting part of, when I run a group program, only women. And when I work with these girls, we actually don't start our journey on the food. We start our journey on the inside work, because it's like, until we break through whatever is holding them back in that area, then they really can't, they're still going to be in that like dieting phase, right? They'll ask me, okay, so what are we going to, when I talk with clients on the phone, her perspective, might be joining me in coaching. Okay, well, what kind of strategy do you use? I'm like, well, I don't use a dieting strategy. Like I'm actually going to teach you a skill set and have you work on the inside, the mindset, the brain work. That's the difference, right? Is confidence truly does trump composition. And so more energy needs to be spent in that place initially, in my opinion.
Yeah, I agree. 100%, 100%. So Amanda, you, like you said, you have a podcast, you have a program, and it's all called Feel Amazing Naked. And I love this so much. So I want to ask you, I know that Feel Amazing Naked means much more to you than, the literal sense. So I want to ask you, what makes you feel amazing naked?
Yeah, for me, I would say that shifts a little bit. For me, there is a strong pull of right now, for me, feeling the most confident I've ever felt, because I feel like I'm serving like my true passion. I feel like prior to this, not going back to my story, I used to teach high school. I left that career. I felt like there was more in there for me. And I've still been looking at in the initial few years of running my coaching practice. And it wasn't until the last year and change, I was like, that's it. So I feel amazing when I know that I'm helping other women come to the same place and feel the way I do. I think every woman should have the opportunity to feel that level of confidence.
Oh, that's nice. I love it so much. Amanda, thank you so much. But this is not over yet. So the second part of the podcast is all about diving deeper into who you are as a woman, as a wife, as a mother, and just just to give the listeners and me a sense of kind of like a being with you on a more intimate level. If that's okay with you, we're going there.
Sure, absolutely.
So, as you know, this show is all about inspiring mothers to thrive as women, wives and mothers. And I like to call it being like a goddess in your life. So I'm curious to know, how are you being a goddess in your life? How do you take care of yourself, your soul, your body? What are some of your non-negotiables?
Oh, I love this question. I teach this so much. I think for there to be non-negotiables and for me to feel like a goddess, I have to be the designer of my week. And I have to use time management to not as a reaction to everything that I have to do, but as a creation of everything I want to do. And so I teach that to the girls that I work with, because I want them to know that they can have what they want, but they have to invest the time in allowing that to happen. So my non-negotiables are spending time meal planning every Sunday morning and grocery shopping, usually on Sundays or Mondays. My other non-negotiables are getting in 4 to 5 sessions of moving my body in some way during the week. So I'm usually doing resistance training a couple times, and then maybe CrossFit or some other form of cardio. And then usually one day of yoga is a really great thing for me. So I'd say that by far, those are my high priority non-negotiables. And then I usually choose 2 tasks during the week that are things that I want to do for myself that I don't normally like work in. So for me, that's like a hot bath and reading a book while I'm in the hot bath with no interruption. And then the other one is usually investing in a friendship. So it's carving out space to connect with a friend that I would like, or some sort of friendship or maybe colleague relationship that I want to invest in. And so I'd say those would be the things that I absolutely work into the week. And then also a date night with my husband, usually at home, just being together at home after the kids go to bed.
I love that. And that's what it's all about, right? Being very intentional and deliberate. And like you said, designing the life that you crave. Mm-hmm. Yeah, I love that. Thank you. Okay, second question. In one sentence, what is your vision for your life? What are you creating? What is your life's purpose?
Wow, this is a tough one.
In one sentence.
Okay. So, my vision for my life is to live with intention and presence in my role as a mother, wife, and coach.
I love that. It all comes.
I hope that was worked in a sentence.
But isn't that the hardest thing to do? To just say it, what it is that you are creating. I find that even when I interview experts, it's really tough to answer this question, because we're so amazing at helping others. But then when it comes to our own ability to just say it.
Yeah. Well, and the other piece that comes up for me too is I'm an avid journaler, and I journal every day. And my technique in journaling has shifted a lot. But one of the things I'm asking myself often after having a really cool experience was, who am I? It's something I bring back into journaling like once a week. And the blurred line though is, who am I is not the same as what do I do? And so trying to make sure I'm really clear on, I'm bringing who I am into what I do, but what I do is not who I am.
Right. Absolutely. Absolutely. I know that there are a lot of women who listen to this show who they don't know who they are. And
Mhm.
so maybe you can talk a little bit about that process of like, how do you even start to find who you are?
This has been a long journey, and I'm by far not perfect at it, but there's been a few things that have really helped me. Um, One of the things was, and I will tell you, if we had this discussion 5 years ago, it would look a lot different. One of the things was getting really clear and honest with myself if the words coming out of my mouth were my truth or somebody else's truth, or what I wanted, what I thought other people wanted from me. And so you can feel that in your gut. Like when you start to say something and it's like, wait a second, like in your inner voice is like, oh, that's bullshit. Sorry, I hope I can cuss.
Yeah.
Like you start to hear that. And so then it was basically just holding myself accountable to if what's coming out of my mouth doesn't feel good in my soul, then it's probably not a part of who I am.
Yeah.
And then I think the second place to start is being really clear on who you want on in your inner circle. And are you surrounding yourself with people that share your same mission and intention in life? Or do you find that those relationships are sucking more energy out of you than really than is worth? So I think those two shifts for me in a nutshell have been really important to figuring out who I am and who I want to be.
Yeah. Yeah. Thank you. I know it's a big one.
Yeah.
I feel like I want to say too, but it's going to keep us here for
and
5 days.
meditation, I would say, sorry, I have to throw that one in.
Yeah.
It's been really powerful. Yeah. Just
Right.
creating the space to get into those unconscious thoughts and have that time to think about those things wasn't something I really created for myself 5 years ago, 3 years ago, even. Say the last 3 years have been really clear that's a non-negotiable. I forgot to mention, actually. It is a non-negotiable for me.
Yeah. But sitting with yourself in silence, how scary is that when you have absolutely, I remember the first time I had to sit in meditation, and I've heard this, I mean, I'm in the industry, I've heard people talk about this all the time, but I couldn't get myself to sit because I was so uncomfortable with just being by myself. And as a mother, it's a great excuse because you always have great excuses, to justify why you don't have the time to sit silent with yourself.
Yeah.
But then that's one of the things.
Yeah. And I think there's a misunderstanding that when we meditate, our brain should be silent, when in actuality, the physical act of meditation is learning how to bring into awareness those thoughts that want to come in and learning to replace them with what you want to be in that moment. And so it's natural. Your to-do list comes, and that's part of meditation. And so it's okay. You're not failing. There's no right way. There's no wrong way. It's just what works for you. And what can you create to get the most out of that time?
Right. I love that. All right. Next question. What advice does your now mom self would have given to your pre-mom self?
Oh my gosh. Perfection is non-existent. I feel, looking back, I feel as though I missed out on the first 6 months to a year of my daughter's life in a lot of ways because I was so worried about not being the picture perfect mother. And I put so much unneeded stress both on myself, on her, on my husband, because I thought things were supposed to be a certain way. And I really cared about, what my mother thought, what my mother-in-law thought, what, friends thought, instead of really looking at myself and my daughter and my husband, at the time only having one kid, as a cohesive unit and like what really worked for us. So I would say, done in a lot of ways is way better than perfect. And I live that, and I share that motto all the time because I think it applies to so many things, is, do what feels good to you and not what you think should happen.
I love that. I love that. Thank you. All right, Amanda, complete the sentence. Women and mothers have to choose themselves first always because
it allows them to be better mothers and women. I mean, it's just simple. It's simply that they have to choose themselves first, because they'll bring more intention and positive energy into
Yeah.
relationships.
Yeah. Thank you. Okay. I like to keep it real and show listeners that even though someone is an expert in one area, they might be struggling with other things. So, what are some of your current challenges as a woman, wife, or mother?
Yeah, this is a great one. Well, an area that we struggled in proficiency was definitely money management. So we've spent a lot of time learning how to create a budget, paying off debt to become debt free. And so those behaviors aren't natural to me. They don't come like exercise and fitness. I've had to really work hard on how we as a family manage our money to accomplish the things that we want to together in life. But I think a big struggle for me is nurturing my passion and still being present. And you asked me like to complete what I want in that sentence. And I think that's really real. Is I could easily be a workaholic because I love what I'm doing and I love the creative energy. I love connecting with women. But I really have to be intentional and work hard to know when to turn those switches off and really create boundaries so that I can be present for my kids.
Yeah, I love that. All right, Amanda, not every woman is a mother, and that's going to be my last question for you today. But every woman is a daughter. So I'm curious to know, how do you think your relationship with your mom helped to shape who you are today?
Yeah, my mother is an extremely hard worker, and I've always she will do whatever she can to help my success. And to this day, she's still a major cheerleader. She helps me in my own business. And so I believe that set the tone of being just a strong woman and not being afraid to, she led a corporate position in a bank. And so she was in a leadership position, and it basically set the tone for me to be willing to stand up in front of my peers and take on a leadership role. And now I see that same independence in my daughter. And so I think that our connection is strong still. We talk every day on the phone. My daughter witnesses that. And so, there's that strong lineage of connection between us.
I love that. I love that. All right, Amanda, is there any last words of wisdom or any last tips you would like to leave the listeners with?
I feel like you did such an amazing job. These questions are deep, and I really appreciate the opportunity to be put on the spot, to be frank, and not have anything practiced or rehearsed, because it really, again, it goes back to what you said. It's about speaking your truth. And that's really becoming clear in who you are, is being provided these opportunities where you just listen to your gut and your intuition, and it takes you in the right direction. So I'm grateful to be here with you today.
Thank you. I'm so honored to have you on the show. Thank you for coming. So before I let you know, can you let everybody know where they can find you online, social media, your podcast, your website? Now is the time for that.
Okay, awesome. Well, you can find me at feelamazingNaked.com, and there you can go to the podcast. I also offer a free 7-day challenge, which kind of mixes in all those things we talked about, right? The skill, the strategy, and the mindset to help create the life that ladies are looking for. And you can also schedule a time. I will hop on the phone with you and we can talk about what you're trying to create, and set up just a free quick coaching session that allows you to connect with me and see if you are a perfect fit for us to work together.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Amanda. Thank you so much for showing up for yourself. Thank you so much for showing up for your family and then for the world as well at large. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you for listening to the Health Begins with Mom show. I love hearing from you, so please post your comments and questions over at healthbeginswithmom.com/podcast. If you love the show, please share it on social media and in your real life with other moms who might enjoy this content. And if you have a burning question or topic you'd like me to hit on the show, just drop me a line at Dorit at healthbeginswithmom.com. And if you love this show and really want to support it, please go to iTunes, write a review, and subscribe. Thank you so much for listening, and I'll catch you next time. Much love and many blessings.